This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download.
Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking Nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
Stormtrooper armor deflects everything except Orback hooves. They're like a horse version of Thomas the Tank Engine.
AJ.
Yeah, Rebels is a lot like our show, where we think we have a good idea and then it just fails in execution.
On this Halloween episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we're ridiculing, we're making fun of, oh screw it, we are tearing apart 2010's terrible remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. This is the Nerf Herder Council. Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, and we are live on the Facebook page and YouTube channel of the Virtual Cantina Network. As always, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to pick up some Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/Virtual Cantina. Without further ado, let me bring on my esteemed co-host. If he would get back in camera frame. He's back, and he's better than ever. What's up, man? Nice last second door close there. Well played.
I got the dog in here with me tonight. I figure, what the hell? Why not?
Oh, we have a visit from a third co-host. Space Ace is here. All right.
Exactly.
Very cool. Okay.
Dogs have a very revered position in horror movies. They cannot die, otherwise the movie sucks. Amityville Horror, I'm looking at you.
Right? Oh God. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we do have some dog death to discuss tonight. Sadly, one of the reasons this movie can almost forgot here. The opinions on the Nerf Herder Council don't necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network, and there may be some bad language. So I will just say, this movie we're talking about tonight can go fuck itself because there is dog death in it. So that is never acceptable, and I will never go along with that. So
fair.
Yeah. So all right, well let's dig into this then. So you're actually coming at this from a very unique perspective. You were not really familiar with the original.
True.
So
I purposely watched it actually in reverse order. I watched the 2010 before the 1984 version.
Okay.
I wanted to come into this remake because you said it was so horrible. I wanted to come into it with fresh eyes and judge it on its own merits before I compared it to what it was remaking.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll give my quick thoughts here. I'm a little biased towards the original because I just think it's an awesome movie. It's always been one of my favorites, not just horror movies, but favorite movies, period. I just think it's fantastic. So I'm a big fan. The whole Nightmare on Elm Street series. I mean, there's some duds in there, but I like a lot of them. Obviously, I think, fans would agree that 1 and 3 are the best. 4 is up there. New Nightmare is pretty cool. Freddy vs. Jason has some great deaths in it, but I've always really loved the original. I just think it was a really original concept. It kind of knocked the horror genre in its ear a little bit. It wasn't just your standard just slasher thing, which I thought was really cool. And I did see it when I was a kid, and it creeped me out. It's one of those things where, can I go to sleep? What's going to happen? Like, am I going to get murdered in my sleep if this happens? Like,
yeah.
So, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for this movie. So I don't know, man. When this remake came out, I was kind of excited, and then I was unbelievably let down, which we will get into. But your perspective, I think, is a little unique because, again, you didn't have any connections to the original, which is a very backwards way of going about, a movie like this, because the original is so iconic. So, initial impressions, you watched the 2010 version first, and then you watched the original from 1984. So give us a rundown of that and what your thoughts are.
Well, first off, it's very much a 2010 movie, meaning the style, the look of the characters in general. Jack, what's up, brother?
What's up, Jack? How's it going, man?
All right, that's cool. Chiming in from across the pond, and by the pond I mean Lake Erie slightly.
Yeah, right. A little further than that.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks like a 2010 movie, right? Like, all the people had that look about them that you're just like, oh, I remember these bands and how of the moment they were, and how anybody who listens to them, you're like, I'm going to make fun of you now. Everybody in the movie looked like someone that you just kind of wanted to punch in the face a little bit.
Thank you.
In fact, the most punchable people survived the longest, which did make it hard to watch. Like, when you're not rooting for the heroes, so to speak, is there a conflict? When you want the bad guy to win, you just want everybody to die. Yeah, I don't know. You're already off on a bad start, but you stack on top of that. You stack some pretty cringy CG effects. Like, they were very proud of them at the time, but in hindsight now that we're 13 years removed from that, like, okay, that's what we thought was cool back then. Got it. Okay,
right. Well, so what did you think of the original? Revisiting that.
I always have a hard time judging classic horror movies. I'll be honest.
Okay. All right.
It's kind of like, what do I think about the Beatles or the Rolling Stones? I respect their contributions. It hasn't aged well. Like, the original is campy as hell, to where, like, some of it, I'm like, is that just a trope of the genre, or is it just bad?
So how do you mean?
What's good bad? What's bad bad? You know what I mean?
Okay, so how do you mean? Like
no one's going to win an Oscar from their performance in 84 or 2010.
Okay,
the acting is bad, but I don't know if the acting's bad or if the writing is bad. All I know is that the characters are behaving in a way that is completely preposterous.
Well, I mean, it is an 80s horror movie. Jeff Caffrey checking in. Good to see you, man, as always. He says, Freddy Got Fingered was an odd sequel also. Yeah, a little bit.
He deserved it, so it's okay.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly what I was just going to say.
Also, Jeff, your OnlyFans history is not our business.
Well played. The opinion of the Nerf Herder Council does not reflect that of the Virtual Cantina Network. Yeah, I mean, but I don't think you go into those 80s horror movies looking for, Oscar-worthy moments. I mean,
okay, so discounting the acting, then question back on you. What makes the 2010 version so much worse?
It has none of the mood, atmosphere, nothing that, God, I hate using this word, but it's the one that comes to mind. Nothing about it is as charming as the original was. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have any of that extra something that, it's a campy movie, like, when you first see Freddy, when he's going down the alleyway with Tina and his arms are like 10 feet long. It's like, okay, that's cheap.
Horrible effect.
But yeah, but you're also like, okay, well, that's kind of cool. Like, you're in a nightmare or whatever. It's in a dream. So, yeah, the remake had nothing. It was so paint by numbers, and it just, I mean, see, this is what I was trying to think of, because like for me, like we've done the episode, we've talked about the Halloween remakes, the Rob Zombie movies, and I'm fully on record saying I love those. We talked this time last year, almost exactly a year ago, we talked about the Hellraiser remake and how that was like at least somewhat enjoyable. And I also happen to really enjoy the Friday the 13th remake that, I don't remember what year it was. It was, I think it was a few years before this one, the Nightmare on Elm Street one. So all of those had something to enjoy, or at least they did something that took away from the fact that it didn't have quite the same spirit as the original.
Just the year before, actually. It was 2009 for the Friday the 13th remake.
Okay. I know I saw half of it. And then I had to leave the theater because my date was absolutely terrified. And I
thing, right?
No, we were in
the movie's doing its job.
No, we were in the cinema at Tower City. So we'll just, for those of you who remember that theater in Cleveland, you'll know why.
It wasn't the movie that was terrifying her. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when I finally got to watch it, I was like, all right, this is cool. I just think that all these remakes have something that, okay, I can get through this, even though it's not as good as the original, except for this one. This one's just terrible. And I mean, you nailed it. The characters, I mean, starting there are not likable. That droopy dog face kid, I'm like, oh my God, will you just die?
How does he even have a Hollywood career?
I mean, well, I can't say he's a bad actor.
I wish I had that kid's confidence. I wish I had his confidence. If I had to look at that face in the mirror every day, I'd be like, look at maybe radio.
No. Aiken says, Chris Aiken says, this is comparing a frozen shit that hurts your asshole to diarrhea shit after an hour of cramps. 3 and 4 are the only nightmare movies that matter. Disagree. 1 and 3. 4 is okay, but when you've got a guy like karate fighting an invisible Freddy, that's kind of iffy.
Which one has Dokken on the soundtrack?
Dream Warriors 3.
Is that 3? Okay.
Yeah, that one's awesome. Yeah, that kid has oh my God.
Also have the blonde with the tongues lashing her to the bed.
Yep, okay. The nurse.
Yeah, best one.
Yep.
Because it's the only one I've seen. So.
Until now.
Yeah, it's not a chauvinistic thing. It's just that's all I know. So
yeah, you know what I find funny, dude, is that like your first comment was that the people you want to die live till the end, and that was my response when I first saw it. I was like, I want these people to die. Like, if the Freddy was worth a damn, and believe me, we'll get there. I'd be rooting for Freddy all the way. Not that you're not always rooting for Freddy in a Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
A little bit. But
I mean, holy crud, man. It was so bad in so many ways. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's just, I don't think it was necessarily the acting. It's just that the characters aren't likable. That douchebag boyfriend, like the ex-boyfriend or whatever, Glenn. Ugh. He was terrible. He was awful. I don't know the
character names. I'm gonna have to look up Wikipedia for these things because they're forgettable. That's the other thing. Yeah, they're just forgettable. That's does not matter.
Yeah, I forgot to bring up my notes here, but yeah, it's oh God, he's so just snide and ugh. I mean, there's nothing to like there. So when he died, you're like, okay, sweet, let's get rid of that a-hole. Like you don't want anything to do with him, and there's really nobody to root for.
So I got a question for you, and this is pure speculation. So I want your speculation on this because we just talked about how the Friday the 13th remake was 2009, and then here we go with 2010. Let's redo Nightmare on Elm Street. Why?
It was a big deal. And by the way, I have to correct myself. The ex-boyfriend is Jesse. So
also, this is 2 years removed from the Rob Zombie Halloween.
Yeah,
that was 2000.
Well, that was the trend back then. You know, they make these kind of cheap, like gory. People got into it. It was like kind of like it was an established property that they knew would bring some people to the theater, and an easy way to make money at Halloween. So, yeah, there it is. Jeff says it right there. Cash grab. Yeah, that's really what it was.
But weren't we already in the era of Saw at this point? Like, didn't we have new franchises for horror at this point?
Let me see. When was the first Saw?
I feel like it's right around this time, actually.
Yeah, let me see. 2005, was it? Oh, no. Series debuted on October 29th, 2004, according to Wikipedia. So 2004. Yeah, I mean, there's Aiken says the same thing. The reason as to why lower cost to make with guaranteed return. I mean, it's really what it is. I mean, dude, I was a sucker for it. I was like, oh yeah, cool. And like I say, have you seen the Friday the 13th remake?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I remember two things about that remake.
Okay.
One thing was awesome and one thing was terrible.
Okay. What were they?
The awesome thing was sleeping bag into a tree.
Yes.
And bow hunter Jason.
That was cool, man. See?
No, it's not cool. Jason is all about improvised weapons. He just finds whatever is laying around and kills you with it. That's it. This whole thing, like, I'm going to snipe you with a bow and arrow when you're in a speedboat. What?
That's great, man. See,
no, that's not great.
That's playing right into my point. And because I was trying to figure out, like, why I actually got some enjoyment out of the updated versions of Hellraiser, Friday the 13th, and Halloween, and absolutely detest this one. Because only the Hellraiser remake has some of the atmosphere of the original. Otherwise, that's just, a remake for remake's sake.
Okay. It is generally macabre. The plot doesn't follow anything of the original, but
no, it does not.
Anyone wants to hear about our thoughts on the Hellraiser remake, go back and watch last year's Halloween episode. It's already out there.
Yep. We dig into that one pretty deep, and it's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, I didn't mind it.
I kind of want to rewatch that now.
I know. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, I should go check that out again. But yeah, you know what I figured out is that, like, with the Rob Zombie Halloween, first of all, the original, like, it's iconic because it's a thriller. It's creepy. It's, and there's like a thimble full of blood. There's no blood in that movie. So Rob Zombie amped it up, and it was violent. And you got a little bit of a backstory into Michael Myers. So it added to, and there's a shitload of gore, which I'm well on record as saying I love a shitload of gore. So that was cool. It was the character, which is cool. The story was the story, but it kind of added something to it. So you weren't focused on the fact that it's not as scary, not as creepy as the original. And the Friday the 13th remake was kind of like that too. I mean, the original's not really scary, I suppose, but it's pretty campy. But the remake amped up the violence, and you had the little underground tunnel where Jason actually lives somewhere, and it was different. And I'm sorry, but the whole bow hunter Jason, like, I just laughed, and it was like, okay, but that's kind of what the original movies made you do, right? Especially, I mean, the third one, it was supposed to be in 3D. It's like, oh God, it's where he pops the guy's head, and it's like, you see a guy like this, like it's an actual person, and then it goes to Jason or a vote like on his face, and all of a sudden it goes back and it's so obviously like a mannequin, and the eye goes boing right at the screen. Like, yeah. It's so you do laugh. So I got something out of those, but this one I got nothing, absolutely nothing.
I think you've hit on something right there. I think the one thing that this is lacking is that this one tries to be legit scary instead of being self-aware. And the first movie is campy as hell. It's cheesy as hell. The characters don't behave in normal ways. And that's fine, because you can tell, like, it's so left field. It's like watching pro wrestling where no one acts like that, but because no one acts like that, it's okay to watch people act like that. And the 2010 version is like, we're going to make it like this is real life.
Yes.
No one behaves like that. Stop it. Have fun with it, because unless you can make it like the 2007 Rob Zombie Halloween, where you introduce a plausible backstory of this dude's just a friggin' psychopath, and he's so driven by rage and hate and sheer insanity that he can withstand mortal wounds to a degree, until the second one, which basically makes him immortal. That's a whole other thing. But
right. Speaking of episodes,
but the first one is like, okay, we're gonna take Michael Myers, we're gonna nerf him in the sense that we're going to explain why he is unkillable in the first movie, at least.
Yeah.
So we're gonna bring him into the real world a little bit by giving him a plausible backstory. Whereas this one, this Nightmare on Elm Street thing is just like, no, we're gonna have people act just as stupid as the original, but we're gonna try to tell you that it's more realistic.
Yeah.
Like the scene in the pharmacy is the one that really crystallizes it for me, right? Like the dude has been on Adderall for how many days, and he's going to the pharmacist like, this is my best droopy face impression for our audio viewers.
Hold on, I'm gonna put you in solo.
I've been on this since I was 15. Could you just kill it?
It's like fucking droopy dog. I need my mouse.
That dude could go in there. That dude could sleep for 16 straight friggin' hours. Go in there with his natural face, and no pharmacist would ever fill a prescription for stimulants for that guy.
The guy looks like he's about to drool out of the corner of his mouth at any moment, doesn't he? It's just it's just like the original sad bastard face. That face you made was so good. My God, that was awesome.
And then the girl comes running in and falls asleep in an aisle because, dude, you go into a Walgreens these days and it's a police state.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even walk in the parking lot without the damn thing going like, you are under video surveillance. You are trespassing, blah, blah, blah. Like, shit, man, I'm just buying vitamins.
Yeah,
what
right.
The hell? Then you walk in like, welcome to Walgreens. Like, all right, so we are definitely being surveilled. But she can friggin' fall asleep in the incontinence aisle or where the hell she was.
Incontinence aisle.
Basically concuss herself on the ground, have her forearm erupt in blood because she's getting slashed in her dream, and nobody comes to check on her whatsoever, even though she wakes up screaming too, by the way.
Did you notice that too? Like people, just the reactions, like the swim coach, like when he he wakes up from the nightmare when he was in the pool and everybody's surrounding him and he's like choking up water and the guy goes, "Are you okay?" Right. Oh, thanks, coach. Thanks, coach. Almost died, but yeah,
chest compressions because the dude is drowning. Right? He goes, "Here comes the water," and they're like, "Go to the nurse." I guess.
They're just standing there looking
walk
at
it off, dude. I mean, what the fuck?
I know. Seriously, that coach like, "Are you okay?" Like, what is that? At least in
Who
the
hell
original,
fished him out of the pool is what I want to know.
That's what we need. We need the behind the scenes to know what was happening while they're in the nightmare, just to see all the dopey reactions of all the idiots in the pool. Like, I'm getting out of here before he craps himself. Right. It's gonna end up like Caddyshack. Duty.
Dude, you're right.
Just like, intersperse that footage in there.
That's the thing. Like, somebody falls asleep in class and then wakes up screaming bloody fucking murder. Are you okay?
Yeah. like it's a perfectly normal occurrence. You know, at least in the first one, the teacher was like completely freaked out. She's like, "Oh my God." Like, you could tell like she was really shaking and go. Like, you know, But in this one, people are just like, yeah, you know, whatever.
Well, in the first one, she had the fear that she was smoking the dope.
Yes. I'm glad you noticed it. Yes.
The teacher from Nightmare on Elm Street is also the mom from Detroit Rock City, which is an amazing comedy that I think came out in this exact same year.
Well, there could be an episode to talk about Detroit Rock City. It is criminally underrated. I hope you have a son.
Well, I am way off. Sorry. That came out in 1999, folks.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Wow. my buddy Jason
old.
Wheeler, my guitar player Jason Wheeler, totally makes sense now why this was watched on my HBO Max. Yep, thanks for that login, buddy. Much appreciated. I was doing show research. See, I'm not just entertaining myself with your $18 a month. I'm doing research. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
I didn't watch it on yours, Wheeler, just so you know. I watched it on my friend's Max logins. So neither of us paid for it.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And we still overpaid.
So, all right. So let's go through this because, let's start right at the top and then we'll go. I've got some notes here. Can we just talk about the fact that this Freddy absolutely sucks? It's terrible. I mean, first of all, I understand what
I got
they were
reasons.
trying to.
What are yours?
Okay. Well, first of all, where do I begin? Because the makeup I get, they tried to make him look like an actual burn victim, which is fine. Okay, but it adding the realism kind of took away from the creepiness of the Freddy character, I thought. And it kind of plays into your statement from a little bit ago about, oh well, they're trying to make it too real, and I think that's kind of that. And dude, the biggest issue. Well, let me get to the other stuff, and then I'll tell you my biggest issues. But I mean, he delivers every line like this, and he's got to sound like this. I'm like, that's not like the whole thing. Like Freddy was like a game show host in a way. He was like real, he was kind of slick and like, you know what I mean. And so that was kind of messed up. He didn't
take that one step further with the line delivery. When they did flashbacks to before he was burned, that's not the way he talked.
Yeah. Thank you. Look at Jeff Caffrey. Jeff Caffrey. He's Batman. He is. Freddy is Batman.
The horror villain we want. He's the horror villain we need.
There you go. Yeah, that was not good.
You lived long enough to become the villain.
Aiken Jean Ray Byrne. I didn't. This is going to sound really stupid, but I didn't like the F-bombs in some of like the Freddy lines. It was like it was like it was unnecessary. I mean, like the original Freddy said bitch here and there, and it just, and I mean, I have a very foul mouth, so it's ironic that I'm the one saying this, but I just thought it was kind of silly. And yeah, it just wasn't the same. You got to do your hand thing. There you go.
Yes.
Well, boy, that was a good one. Yeah. Oh, well.
Apparently I'm just blurry.
Alrighty. The audio viewers are going to love that.
Right.
Dude, the biggest problem that I had, and I hope this
go solo.
Okay. I hope this doesn't come across sounding like wrong in any way, but I really, really did not like the fact that they changed him from a child murderer to a child molester. I just think, AJ, to your point, and let me know when you want me to bring you back on. It's too much realism, I think, and I just it's a lot harder to believe that like a group of like 20 parents would get together and just murder some dude for touching the kids. Like I guess I kind of understand it. Whereas in the first one where the mom's like, yeah, he murdered like 20 kids. Okay, then you believe that the parents would go for some vigilante justice to the extreme. It just wasn't. It didn't hit as hard. It just didn't land properly. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like that. It took away some of the evil of the character. I mean, it's disgusting. He's a pedophile and everything, but murdering children is pretty much the most vile thing you can do. And I don't know. It just made Freddy worse in the original to be a murderer instead of just like a pedophile or something.
I don't want to divulge into an entire like moral conflict here, but I don't know. I feel like that I didn't like it either, but I liked it for the opposite reason. Like murdering kids, that's awful enough. Okay, great. You murdered some kids. Oh, you diddled them first. Well, that's worse. Like,
yeah, but he didn't kill these kids. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, it'd be horrible, but
that's what I'm saying. Like leaving the survivors to relive that, in my mind, is worse. But
I could see that. I mean,
at least it's at least more unpalatable, like to an audience, right? Like we're used to people dying in horror movies, but sexual crimes, against children, even worse. Like it's not fun. No one can have fun with that at that point. I think that's what it is. It's like it just ruins anybody like getting into it for the campiness of it. You're like, oh, people die. Okay, fine. People die in movies. They die in horror movies. That's a staple. Sexual crimes, though, that is a very personal thing that can honestly trigger people. Like there's not a single murder victim who's triggered by murder because they're already dead. But there are plenty of sexual crime survivors that have to live through that shit, and then it just becomes vulgar. Obscene.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm not disagreeing, and I hope that what I'm saying is not coming across as like, I'm making, pedophilia like less than it is.
No, I think it was a very poor writing choice. I think it was a very tone deaf writing choice.
Yeah. Oh, Nino's tuning in. What's up, Nino? Good to see you, buddy. Congrats on the new house, man.
It was
cool.
shock value, but in the wrong way.
Yeah, I don't know. It just made the parents' actions less believable. Like, I mean, there are plenty of examples of parents going out there and, exacting, the ultimate revenge on people for molesting their kids. And I understand that, but it brought that little seed of doubt. Like, man, oh man, like, yee. Okay. Like, did you have to go that far? Whereas in the original, we're like, yeah, he killed 20 kids. You're like, yeah, let's off this son of a bitch. Like, especially because they even throw in, oh, well, the DA got him off and he walked free and, the justice system didn't do its job. So we went and did it for him. So that's way more believable. And you side with the parents and you're like, oh, geez, like, okay, like, I don't know. It made the character of Freddy hit so much harder. And, again, I keep coming back to the comment you made about the reality of it.
It was at least a plausible setup for a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like there are people who have done the things that the original Freddy did as far as like killed X number of people, so on and so forth. But there's at least enough unreality that you can have fun with the idea and just dive into the world and be like, all right, well, that was a horrible thing. Let's see what happens next.
Yeah.
But this whole thing of like, oh God, he's a child molester. Yeah. There are child molesters in reality. Like I can't have fun with this now. There's no enjoying the romp of, victims of sexual misconduct.
Yeah.
Exacting revenge, or especially because apparently the sexual aggressor is now doing it again. Like it's just Freddy's revenge for Freddy's own shitty thing.
Yeah. Well, and you get, I mean, it seems like you're even more beautiful now. Like, ugh.
Yeah, like he's victimizing him twice.
Yeah, like I understand that that's the part of the cringe. I get that. So I mean, I guess in one respect that part of it worked well because it is pretty cringy. I just think that the parents doing the vigilante justice thing doesn't hit nearly as hard if it's not, well, okay, well, he murdered 20 kids, then he got off for it, so we're gonna take matters into our own hands. Instead in this one, the parents just like they murdered him. And it was like, okay, well, didn't she even try to, like, there wasn't even that inference of, yeah, like he got off. Like we took him to court and they said, no, he's innocent. Then you do it. It's just, oh, we heard what he did. We're going to slaughter his ass. Like, okay, well, and that's just one of the missteps. It's so many missteps in this movie. It's just clumsy.
Well, yeah. And the whole swerve, right? Like there's a swerve in the middle where it seems like Freddy is the victim. Like, oh my God, our parents did this horrible thing to this guy who didn't deserve it. And then you find out, Oh wait, he did.
That scene sucked too. You murdered an innocent person. You bastard. Like, shut up. You don't have the whole story, you weepy prick. That guy sucks. Oh, that guy sucks, man.
I don't. Why? With all the casting they did, why is that the guy that you're like, yeah, he's going to live through it?
Ugh. Well,
nobody wants to see that guy live ever.
Dude, I'm not even kidding. Like, as when I watched it in the theater,
that's part of the conflict. That pouty faced motherfucker is the one we're supposed to root for. So I got to look at sad bastard there and be like, oh, I do feel bad that happened to you. No, I don't. Now I know why your face looks like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Aiken says, come on, boys, you write horror from the horrible. I am a burn victim, and I'm not triggered by fried flesh or furnace scenes. Victims of sexual assault probably aren't consuming Freddy Krueger movies. I don't know about that. We'll read it,
You
AJ.
just read it verbatim.
No, I didn't. I left out a word. Look, just follow me. I'm the host and producer. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good point. I mean,
touch on some sensitive subjects, so I'm just going to give a quick, like, personal apology for any edgy stuff that we get into. I mean, it is horror movies, and we are talking about the backstory of a character who, in a 2010 movie that we're talking about, does have a history of sexual abuse.
Yeah.
So.
But all right, so your problems with Freddy.
My problems with Freddy.
And we're
like
talking
said,
about in the remake, not the original.
Oh boy. After what we just talked about,
yeah.
God, where do I start? Where do I start politely is the question. Yeah, none of the character story was fun, like, at all. And I'm not saying like the originals was fun. I mean, the guy was burned alive, and that's how he died, and now he's attacking people in their dreams. But to have this detail of a backstory, to have this guy be someone that we even have to like think about, movies are supposed to be escapism, and they made it like unpleasantly real.
Yeah.
Yes, Jeff, he is. That's why his blood pressure is so high. That's why he looks all puffy and swollen. That's
from soy sauce of another kind, my friend.
it's a lot of water retention. You know, when your sodium count is that high. Anyway,
here comes the comment from freaking Aiken any minute now.
Anyway, no, my issues with Freddy. Okay, so yes, the makeup, I'll give the makeup a pass. Honestly, I think the original makeup was intended to look like a realistic burn victim to a degree. It just didn't look as good, and there might be multiple reasons for that. But if we're getting into technical things, the dialogue, like the way the guys talked, like, it was very obviously everything was overdubbed because the guy had so much makeup on. There's no way that his mouth formed those words.
Yeah.
So everything was just like, and I listened to it in earbuds. Maybe that's why I had such a thing with this, but there was like you could definitely tell when they captured something with like a mic on stage versus like, okay, well now we're going to dub it in post. And everything Freddy was very much like, I'm up on the mic now. Hi, how are you? Versus like, okay, the rest of the movie's shot like this. This is what we're going to do now. You know? Like, it was so obviously overdubbed. I'm like, I can't take that. And that's just the audio part. So let's talk about the look of it all. Like, it didn't make any sense. Like, the gardener never looked like that. So why did Freddy look like that? The guy didn't wear the hat. He didn't have a red and green sweater. He had a brown and yellow sweater.
No, it was red and green. Oh no, never mind. I see what you're saying. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, so like the burn victim version of Freddy Krueger in the remake did not correlate whatsoever to the living version of Freddy Krueger, or at least as the kids remembered him. I'm assuming that at least like the visual representation was accurate.
Yeah.
So you get this guy who has like too much backstory and a shitty one at that, and it doesn't match up whatsoever to his past. So like, are you supposed to empathize with him? Are you supposed to hate him? You're kind of supposed to do one thing and then another at different times in the movie. It was just, I didn't know who to root for because I didn't like Freddy and I didn't like the kids. Maybe they could all die. I don't know. Can we remake the remake and just have COVID take them all?
A Pandemic on Elm Street.
There we go.
There it is. We just rewrote the movie. Chris Aiken says, this may not be a huge part of the issue, but am I the only one that thought the cinematography was sort of dark and totally terrible? Like fake 80s haze or something? Yeah, it was. I'll have to go back and look at that again. I thought they kind of did that to make it like almost feel like a nightmare and kind of cause confusion, I guess. It was pretty dark though. That I will say. I did notice that.
The opening scene I thought was like incredibly stilted, and then it turned out it was a nightmare. So I was okay with it because like the diner had like no lights on. It was like green from the outside and red on the inside. I'm like, no diner is lit like that. And then it turns out, oh, he was dreaming. Okay,
yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like when I saw it in the theater the first time, speaking to the diner, it's like the first death. I was like, okay, cool. The dude just like basically almost carving his own head off, and then and then it's just his crap from there.
That was the high point actually, because you looked at that guy like, I wish you'd just cut your own head off, and he does. So it's great. Yay.
Man, yeah, that ex-boyfriend in the funeral scene next where he's just like being a prick. It's like, oh my God, just take that dude. Like, I
was surprised by the order of the deaths. It did seem like the blonde girlfriend, I forget her name. I know she shows up later in the Arrow series, but that's, not attached to this. That's just the actress. She seemed like the person who would be on like the poster, like the survivor, right?
Well, but that's kind of the point though. That was definitely from the original, because the original did that on purpose. Like they started it out like Tina was like a red herring. You thought that Tina was going to be the main character, and all of a sudden she's getting hacked up in like, the tumbling room or whatever. So that was definitely a callback, which, they did that. They did a lot of that in here, which is fine. You have to reuse some scenes, and I have them, the ones they did, but
you want to run those down because I noticed that when I watched the 84 version, some of the campy weird stuff from the 2010, I was like, oh, that was a callback. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because you have to do that. I mean, the Hellraiser remake was weird in that it didn't really adhere to, the original movie. But, I mean, and first of all, I'd like to just get this out of the way. They killed the dog. Fuck that. It's never necessary. Cut that shit out, Hollywood. Just stop it. I hate that.
Yeah.
Freddy's
producer is the villain, not the killer.
Yeah, right. So yeah, Freddy's head coming out of the wall above Nancy during the sleepover. That was, that's fine. I thought it was cool because it was a little, I don't know. I thought they kind of screwed up because like in the original, he kind of just comes out and goes down like, and then goes back in. This one, he kind of swims and moves a little bit. Like he's like shimmying. I'm like, okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like they were in love with the CGI, right?
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, Chris is the blonde girlfriend's name in the beginning that you thought was gonna live. Her death is the same as Tina's in the original, in the bedroom, and the boyfriend's in the room and whatever. The hand coming out of the water, they had to redo that. That's like one of the most iconic scenes ever. The one that was really kind of stupid was the body bag scene, because they put it near the end of the movie and it was like it was out of place. It was out of place, man. Like you that's not the place to put that. That's why it was where it was in the original. So
by the time that even shows up in the remake, you're like, we are so far beyond that.
Yeah.
Like in the original, it's like, oh, that's a trauma response. Like she's still reeling from having seen that.
Yeah.
But by the time it shows up in the remake, you're like, not only has she forgotten about that, so have we.
Yeah, right. Aiken's talking about the production value, and he says horror needs to be high def to be more brutal. Halloween Ends, which was a ridiculously bad movie for its own reasons, at least looked scary. I have to admit, like that first one of that latest Halloween trilogy did not grab me. I've tried to get through it a couple times, and I just lose interest in it. So I haven't seen a single second of Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends. So,
No,
yeah.
I can back that up. I did see Halloween Ends, and it at least like production wise looks great.
Okay. Crappy story though, from what I understand. Like god awful story.
Oh yeah. A lot of swerves are like, oh my god, it's Michael Myers. No, it's not.
Yeah. Fuck that shit. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, so they did recreate some scenes which they had to. Again, the only one I mean. Well, they did change one of them up. You know, basically like the oatmeal-ish stairs in the original.
God, those are so much worse than I remember. So for the audience, I have seen bits and pieces of the 84 original before I had to watch the 2010 version for this episode, and then went back and watched the 84 in its entirety. And I remember that scene, and I don't remember it being so goddamn obvious that there was, like you said, oatmeal in the stairs. Like it was
technically it's Bisquick if you believe the documentary.
Okay. But yeah.
Well, they exchanged that for the blood hallway. She's basically swimming
that
through.
Was cool. That was cool.
Okay.
I mean, you watch the scene. They're running down a carpet, and then it goes squish, and then that is where the CG actually helped. That was a seamless transition from I'm on a carpet to now I'm in a sea of blood, and that is not easy to do. Like I watched it a few times. I went back and like looked at it in slow mo. I'm like, where does it change? Where can I see it? And the answer is pretty much nowhere. It was seamless. It was really well done.
Yeah, I mean, it was well done. I just think in terms of a nightmare, I've never found myself swimming through a river of blood, but like being like basically trying to run and not being able to, you know, because I'm stuck in shit or something like that. Like that's happened to me. So I just think the Bisquick stairs are a little more nightmarish. That's just me. I mean, I don't really have a problem with the hallway full of blood. I mean, to your point, it does look great. So at least there's that.
By the way, we're calling the drowning in the pool during swim meet or swim practice. That's the substitute for the bathtub scene, right?
Yeah, you know what?
Minus the hand coming up through the water.
Yeah, I didn't even put two and two together. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I guess it would be. I did not even think about that. Chris,
you're getting hazed. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You are getting hazed.
Yes. He says, yeah, a nightmare for you is an empty beer fridge.
I love this because you're drinking tea tonight and I've got Aldi brand chocolate stout. So it's chocolate lava cake stout, by the way, actually.
I'm behaving. I could have a spooky tooth or a bumbleberry, but I'm not. I'm having iced tea. So there we go. Yeah, I mean, they had to redo the scenes, and they could have done a worse job with those. I think it would have sucked worse if they didn't have those, because those scenes are iconic, and if you just completely ignore that, I think that would have been a major mistake. I think that just would have been a really bad idea.
I guess that's kind of a thesis here, then, because they try to straddle this line between like giving you something new, like updating the formula, but they also did these callbacks. Do you think that the failure was in drawing too many parallels to the original? Like if they had just found their own backstory for Freddy instead of being like, yeah, he killed kids, but no, actually he diddled them. Like, okay, so he was awful to children. Let's make a new crime that's also awful to children, and let's put some visual callbacks in from the original. Whereas like the Halloween remake or the Hellraiser remake was just like, we're going to take the broad strokes. We're going to invent the same villains, being that these are origin stories, but we are going to give them different reasons, or at least more detailed reasons for being who they are.
Well,
it's like we're the same movie, but we're not the same movie. It's a tough line to walk.
Well, but at least, like I said, at least Hellraiser had like kind of the vibe to it. This does not. So I think if you don't have those callbacks, if you don't have those iconic scenes, it just becomes an even bigger turd than it already is. Because you don't even have that anchor there to remind you of something that you really enjoyed that came before it.
Okay, so let's take something like the Friday the 13th remake, because that's a good comparison to this one where it's like a one-off. It takes some swings. It also, well, not with a sleeping bag, unfortunately, but
yeah,
it changes some things up, but also like stays true to the original. And we like the Friday the 13th one. So what is different about that compared to this one? That this is, I'll agree with you, man. It's a turd. It's a turd of a movie. It's not really good on its own merits, and it's not good as a remake.
I think that the things that are added to the Friday the 13th remake as well as the Halloween remake, at least it kind of distracts you from the fact that it's not the quality or the shock value of the original. Because I mean, you're getting those characters that you love to see. You want to see Jason, you want to see Michael Myers, you want to see Freddy, you want to see Pinhead. And it at least it's not trying to do to you what the original was. It just kind of adds to the formula. It's not going, hey, because I think this Nightmare on Elm Street, like I said, like by turning him into a child molester instead of a child murderer, they tried to add like a cringe factor to get the horror out of it. It's like, well, but you don't really need to do that. I just, this one tried, it's like it tried to do new stuff and failed. It tried to adhere to the formula and failed. I mean, granted, I think this might be the most difficult one to do because Freddy is a very difficult character to replicate, let's be honest. But it didn't work on any level that it tried to. I mean, there's some cool gore effects, but I mean, that's it. Everything else was a flop. I mean, dude, come on. The name of the preschool, Badham. Really? Badham. It's a bad preschool. Like, seriously now? That's what you're going to do? What was Evil Town shot down? Let's call it Evil Town Preschool. Oh, nobody'll get that. Like, what the hell is that? And it's just, I mean, there's so many stupid things in it that don't work. And that's the thing, is that it's like, on top of it not being good, like the storytelling is clumsy and dumb. Like
welcome to On the Nose, California.
Right. I mean, dude, just the fact that, when Quentin's drowning in the pool, he sees the scene of the parents burning Freddy. No one told him anything about that. He just has a vision and then goes and confronts the dad like, oh, you killed him. You're an ass. Like, how does he know that? Nancy and the kids didn't know anything about Freddy in the original until the mom told her. Then it was, oh God, instead in this one, the kid just has a random vision and just nails it on the spot. Like, oh, I got it now. Like, what is that?
Right. And the whole premise is like this idea of like, oh, well, it's more grounded now, which makes it scarier, right? It's like reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have to like lay every character's choice in the frame of reality. Like, wait, so mom, who was in the mob that actually killed Freddy, you still have the fucking glove? You just save it and just like stick it in the basement just for whenever you need some expository dialogue to your victim child? Like, what the fuck? Get rid of that thing. Yeah. Come on now. No one wants to hang on to that.
Ew.
Right.
It's like a chicken carcass.
I have something to tell you, son. By the way, join me in the basement. Already red flag. You don't have to go to the basement to say anything. Nothing good happens in a basement if it has to be said in the basement first.
Yeah.
And she's like, hold on a second. I almost got it. You know what, Mom? You can stop. Whatever you're fishing for up in the furnace, you can stop.
I officially believe you.
I have no more questions. I will never ask again. I'm just going to go over here. Thank you.
Yep. I mean, Aiken brings up a point because I actually have this in my notes here. Aiken says, the lack of humor is why I hated it the most. There was a charm to his dumb puns. There was no charm to any of the 2010 dialogue. Yeah, like they brought back the
Rick and Morty made fun of the original, and Rick and Morty made no fun of the 2010.
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, the "I'm your boyfriend now" in the original was, "I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy," and then the mouthpiece of the phone turns into his mouth and the tongue and everything. It's like, oh god, okay. And this one, it's just it was like, "I'm your boyfriend now." Like, it was just so shoehorned in.
Also gross because he already did sexual things.
Yeah. And
when the murderer's like, "You're mine now." Like, oh, that's a whole other thing. Instead of like, "Oh God, you already did that." Oh.
Jeff Caffrey. Freddie was on his vision board. Nice. Yeah, but I mean, just little things like that. Like, they ruined one of the best lines in the original movie. It was handled very clumsily. I mean, it's just not. I mean, shit, dude. And the fact that they just like say things out loud. It's the whole Force Awakens thing. That's the Death Star. No, this is bigger. Duh. Now you got, you can't hurt me. You're in my world. So, okay. So we're just going to tell you what's happening. Like, just don't bother with like suspending disbelief. Like, is it a nightmare? Is it real? What, we know it's a nightmare, but it's like, come on, man. Oh God. Like, ugh. Chris Aiken says, by the way, side note, boys, but Ric Flair just walked out to the AEW ring. Did he think it was a Northeast Ohio Giant Eagle? Sorry, that's a Rick, for all audio listeners out there. Ric Flair just appeared at like 6 of our local grocery stores a couple weeks ago, including one 3 minutes up the road from me, and I did not go.
This is relevant to the show though, because we are talking about awful remakes, and apparently this is just another villain that won't die.
There you go. Oh yeah, but I mean, just the way they just obviously point things out is just, and I mean, even things like how they found his little like sex lair or whatever the hell it was supposed to be at the preschool. It's like some wood nailed up to the wall, and she sees the poster flapping, and we were watching it. My wife goes, "Oh, okay." So they searched high and low for this guy, like where he was taking the kids and everything, and no one thought to uncover that nailed up hole in the wall. Like, are you kidding me right now?
There's nothing behind there.
Yeah, no. That's no.
It's an art project.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of this you caught because again, you're not as into the original as I am, but I mean, it's, I mean, even in the original, it was like, I noticed this was really cool. Like they were talking about how to kill him, and Glenn and Nancy were discussing. It's like, oh, you bring him into the real world and you kill him, whatever. They had mentioned that. Nancy mentioned that, but then Glenn was talking about Balinese. Glenn
wasn't talking about anything. Holy shit! Worst character
in the remake or the original?
Original. Worthless turd of a human being.
You didn't like Glenn, the boyfriend, Johnny Depp, in his first credited film role? Well, I don't know if it's his first, but it's one of the first couple anyway.
Oh, sorry. I was merging reality and characters. I was just talking about Johnny Depp. Anyway.
Did you notice that?
No, just kidding. No, but yeah, the guy had one job 3 times in that movie, and he failed every single time. How tired is this boy? What is wrong with him that he falls asleep this often? He fell asleep twice in the same fucking night.
That's the whole point of the movie, you idiot. They're not sleeping. You can't rip on that. In this movie where you're not supposed to sleep, how tired can he be? What the hell is that?
He was explicitly told, don't fall asleep. He fell asleep twice in the same friggin' night.
Well, look, man, don't you know you have micro naps? You saw the remake where they scientifically...
that part, I don't have a problem with that, actually.
It was kind of cool. It kind of felt to me like the midichlorian thing. Like the Force was cool on its own. You don't really need midichlorians. Like, and the am I is the person awake or asleep thing in the original. Like, yeah, you don't really need to say that they're having a micro nap. It's
right. That was just like a shitty device to say, oh, you can think you're awake, but you can fall asleep at any moment's notice and be in a dream state. instead of like actually going to sleep. No, you could be in the middle of a pharmacy, for example.
As you said, in the incontinence aisle. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so in the original, they're talking, he mentions this thing he read about, I think it was Balinese. They called it sleep skills or something. And they basically like fought back in their dreams. And what they did is they took the energy of the nightmare and said, I'm not going to let you use this against me. And that's how Nancy ends up defeating Freddy in the first one. Like, I take back all the energy I gave you, which is cool, man. It's like an interesting thing. But in this one, there's like, well, we're going to bring him out in the real world, start stabbing him, like cut off his hand. Like, come on, seriously? Like, give me a goddamn break. And then they kill him. And then of course he's back or whatever. It's like, dude, like it was handled so poorly.
I did like it a lot better in the original, even without the whole Polynesian thing where whatever you're holding from the dream world when you wake up, like, gets pulled with you. She wakes up with the hat, for example. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I get it. Like, that was actually as far as it needed to go. The whole, like, all of a sudden Nancy knows this Polynesian dream control thing, whatever it is. I saw her do zero Googling and no microfiche whatsoever. Like, you just heard of this thing and now you can do it.
Well, I mean, but again, are you talking about the remake or? Yeah,
I'm actually talking about the original in that case. Like, that premise was like, oh, you got this like one paragraph Cliff Notes explanation of this whole dream practice that this culture you've never heard of before can do. And that's how you're going to beat Freddy.
Well, no,
we'll go with that.
Well, because I think you missed something there, because she was going to try and bring him out of the dream. And then she basically remembered what Glenn had said, that this, it's Balinese, not Polynesian, but Balinese sleep skills thing where you take back the energy you gave,
right. I forgot. So basically she failed at the Balinese thing.
Yeah. No. She succeeded at the Balinese thing, but the Balinese thing was not pull it into the real world. Her idea was to pull it into the real world like she did the hat, like to pull Freddy into the real world like she did with the hat. But it didn't. You can't do that. And so what worked was Glenn's thing of like, that's why she says, I take back all the energy I gave you. So that was cool.
Yeah, thank you.
But and they made that cool. And then in the new one, it's no, she did pull him out, and now they're hacking at him with like old rusty, paper cutter things, and cutting off his hand. And I mean, it's just like, seriously, that's not nearly as cool as the dream death. I mean, and which begs the question: if they ended it the same way, like if she actually like turned her back and said, "I take back all the energy I gave you," and ended it like that, would you have? Would that have bothered you? Which ending do you think you would have preferred?
2010 version used the "I take your power"
ending, yeah, as opposed to them actually bringing him into the real world and starting to hack at him like he's just some bad guy they found, like some hobo on the corner.
I mean, it wouldn't have saved the movie, but it would have helped for sure. This idea of like, you don't need to bring a dream murderer into the real world because we all sleep. We must sleep. So no matter how much you fight against it, eventually you're going to be in his world. That's great. I love that conceit. That's awesome. But man, to then say like, well, the only way to get at him is you got to bring him into the real world. What if you just dream of him again? He's not a singular being that can only exist once, Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the inference, because they kill him and then he's still alive supposedly. So, I just, again, they tried to make it too real. They tried to make it too damn real.
I was going to say, let me put a real point on this for you then. Let me ask you a question. It's 2010. The idea is pitched to remake Nightmare on Elm Street. How do you do it?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it.
You just say the 84 original can't be touched and I'll pass on this project?
I would.
There's nothing that you can think of that would be possible to remake this thing for a modern audience.
The only thing I think I think where they really dropped the ball was not getting Robert Englund to be Freddy, because he really was that character. And
I agree, even though the new version is not the same Freddy by a long shot, and for all the reasons we've already outlined, which are not good ones. You're right. That would have been that one bit of cachet that might have lent some credibility to the remake.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see if there's any stories out there about them actually asking him to do that and him turning it down or reading a script, or, because he's very protective of that character. I mean, he wants to only ever be the only Freddy. And so, he's like Harrison Ford to Han Solo in that respect. Like, that's his character. He is Freddy. Jeff Caffrey, he says, what if the kids are the murderers and the parents have to help Freddy? I don't know if that's really creepy at all, though. I mean, isn't that kind of like Children of the Corn, Jeff? Like, the kids are the murderers, like, then they just become the bad guys. There's really nothing to Freddy. It's basically a bunch of punk ass kids like murdering a gardener. So I don't know.
If you make Freddy the victim, though, that is an interesting way to turn it on its head. Like, yeah, like I said, like they tried for a minute in the remake to say that Freddy was the victim, right? Like, he was the innocent guy. He was just a gardener, and you did this horrible thing to him, parents. And turns out, no, they were justified. Like, I much preferred the idea of, okay, this guy's coming back and doing horrible things, so we don't like him, but he has a reason, so we can at least like understand and decide who we want to root for, the victims or the villain, Freddy.
Yeah.
Then we find out, there's no reason to root for Freddy. He's actually more horrible than we thought.
Right. Aiken suggests, let's lock the kids in a basement, have Jigsaw give them challenges, and have them only solvable in their dreams by Freddy. Nightmare on Saw Street. Nice.
I wish you hadn't put that in the public, man. We don't have the rights to it yet, and I guarantee you we could sell that.
Probably. Well, they did Freddy versus Jason.
Exactly. Crossovers in horror are like pure kitsch. So now it's out there. Now it's free. We make no money off that. Thank you, Chris.
We've already gotten screwed out of our awesome Disney rewrites, so for Star Wars. So why not this one too? I mean,
we should be producers. That's what we need to be.
We'll be like the Phil Lord and Chris Miller. We'll be like those guys.
Exactly. We'll come up with an idea, not know how to capitalize on it, and wait until somebody else does a better version of it, and just get our cut. It's cool.
I like that idea. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like, to kind of put a bow on all of this, man, I think, back to your point, the Freddy is, instantly the Freddy kind of does it in. And having Robert Englund as Freddy would have saved this movie somewhat, because the lines are terrible, but if they're delivered more like Freddy would deliver them, like, just picture Robert Englund like, you look even more beautiful than before. Like, as Robert Englund, you're like, okay, it's gross, but it adds that camp factor to it that is like, okay, like, you remember that, you know what I mean? Like,
okay, yeah, I think you nailed it right there. In this case, yes, Freddy's iconic, Michael Myers is iconic, Jason Voorhees is iconic, but Pinhead, but in Friday the 13th, in Halloween, in all these other horror movies, the villain, the slasher is not the driving force, is not the charisma of the movie. Like, Jason Voorhees is a faceless slasher. Michael Myers is a faceless slasher. Like, they don't say anything. They don't bring the personality.
Yeah.
They are the absence of personality, which makes them so scary. Freddy is the face of the franchise. And I'm not talking about makeup in this case. Like, you remember Nightmare on Elm Street because of Freddy. You remember him because of the personality that is brought to the role. And there is no personality to this Freddy whatsoever. It's just an anonymous bullshit early aughts, the earliest of aughts horror movie.
I think
There's
you just
nothing to it. Yeah.
I think in describing Freddy, I think you just described the whole movie. You really did. I mean, you can't say it any better than
Did it
that,
have to be Freddy? It didn't have to be Freddy, really. There was nothing about this version that made it like, yes, it's a remake of that movie.
Yeah. Now, I think you just absolutely nailed it. There is no personality to this one. It's just another horror movie, and it just happens to rip off an incredible, it absolutely, it just rips off an original property and whatever. Like that's pretty much all it's doing.
It goes back to what Aiken said. It's all a cash grab.
Yeah.
You know what? We had a generic idea, but if we put a recognizable idea into it, now we can hopefully double or triple the box office.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Aiken, him and Jeff, excuse me, they were correct in saying it's a cash grab. And, Aiken doubles down. He says the cost for Robert Englund changes the movie from low budget to mid budget, and the production companies lose money. I'm going to disagree with that, Chris, because I had friends that couldn't have given a crap less about this remake when it came out because it wasn't Robert Englund. And I know there's a lot of fans out there that felt the same way.
Everybody. Yeah. Me too. Everybody I talked to, I remember when this came out and everyone was like, oh, Robert Englund's back. No.
Yeah.
No. There's nothing tying this to the original other than the name. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because Robert Englund is Freddy. I mean, let's face it. When you go to see the Friday the 13th remake, you're going to see the hockey mask. When you could put anybody behind that thing. Same thing with Halloween. But when you go to see the Freddy remake, you're there to see Robert Englund. It's the character of Freddy, but he makes the character. And if he's not there, then what the hell's the point?
Yeah.
It's just,
It's amazing to say like it's just in the eyes, but I mean, hell, even Star Wars had the good sense to cast Peter Mayhew as the close-up Chewbacca in Force Awakens.
Yeah, exactly.
Juna Sumotomo as, the body double, basically, and then move Jonas into the main role. Like they knew that those two eyeballs were Chewbacca.
Yep.
Like even in this case, if you want to like reboot the franchise and you want to go ahead with somebody else as Freddy, fine. But you know what? You get Robert Englund to do the voice, and you have all the close-ups be Robert Englund.
Yep. Aiken says, not hype. Every fan still watched this. No, they did not. I'm telling you, dude. I have friends that don't give a shit about this because it's not Robert Englund. I know a lot of people that have that outlook. People don't care. They want to see Robert Englund. I mean, it's the truth, man. That would have probably doubled the box office. I would bet, because that's what people want. It's a return. I mean, hell, dude, just today with the Dream Theater news that Mike Portnoy is returning, the fans went bananas. Why? Because it's their guy. The original guy is back. Oh my God! It's the same thing with Robert Englund. That's the guy. That is the guy. It would be like if when they rebooted Superman, if Christopher Reeves was still healthy, and could do it and looked reasonably young enough. If they did a new Superman movie and they got Christopher Reeves as Superman, everyone would have lost their minds. Superman fans were like, holy shit, that's Superman. But, that's just, I mean, look at Michael Keaton as Batman right there. That's all you need to know. Everyone.
Look at Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. Yep. There's no semblance of his performance in modern Disney movies. I'm talking not movies, series. He appears in The Mandalorian. Luke Skywalker appears in The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett, but he doesn't appear in Ahsoka. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. But anyway, he's basically a screen reference. His face is replaced, his body is replaced, but he gives a trace performance for the body double and the deep fake to follow. That's it. But they understand it. Like the soul of Luke Skywalker is Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
So same thing here. Robert Englund is Freddy. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're going, Aiken. I mean, he says salary, digital rights, points, etc. Yeah, but I just think the box office would offset that, and it opens it up for franchise opportunities. I think no one wanted to see more of this crap after this one. So yeah. I disagree. He says this guy, Jackie Earle Haley, had never, or excuse me, the guy meaning Robert Englund, had never not been the guy, so less shock value. Curiosity helped 2010 to see what they would do. We have hindsight now to know it blows. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. There's just a popularity there. It's like when you announce a Star Wars movie with Luke Skywalker, you're going to sell a crap load of tickets just based on the name. It's you know, I mean, you're not as big into nerd culture, Aiken, so I know you're not like as familiar with that, but I can tell you that as a fan of like, you know, like a couple different massive franchises, if you're going to tell me that the original guy is there, I'm all over it like white on rice. And that's just how nerds are. It's that familiarity factor, especially for something so popular. You know, that's why they had the original characters back in the sequel trilogy for Star Wars, because they knew that if you go, hey, here's new Star Wars, you don't know any of these characters, people they're going to go because it's Star Wars. Sure. But it's not, you know, as soon as you say, hey, by the way, it's got Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and Princess Leia, everybody's going to shit their pants and run to the theater with their money flying out of their hands going, here, let me in. So,
right. A general audience doesn't really know who's what, but they will remember the original in some way.
Yeah.
So you need to have the original back again, or else they're going to be confused. And the hardcores are going to absolutely know the original, and they're going to expect the original to be back again. Yep. So if you recast, you better bring something amazing to the table, because you've just alienated both sets of fans right there.
Yeah. Jeff Caffrey.
I think this movie in general was in a lose-lose situation. Unless you're going to continue Robert Englund as Freddy, you're already sunk. That's it.
Yeah. Jeff Caffrey says the next one should be called Robert Englund is Freddy. Yeah. I mean, dude, all you got to do, just listen to these two sentences and just see which one matters to you. Hey, man, they're remaking A Nightmare on Elm Street with some guy in it that, you know, instead of Robert Englund. Okay. Or, hey, man, they're remaking A Nightmare on Elm Street. Robert Englund's back as Freddy. Which of those sentences makes you immediately want to go to the movie theater and hand over your money?
Right.
I mean, it's all you got. It's all you got to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, by the way, Aiken, you ass, I see your stupid Han Solo comment in the friggin' comments. And by the way, you misspelled Saber, you dummy. It's not like a mid-'80s Buick, you idiot. Anyway. All right. Well, on that note, why don't we close up shop here for the night? I think we've done all that. But yeah, dude, real quick, last thoughts. Like, did the remake suck as bad as I led you to believe, especially in comparison to the original?
It sucked worse once I saw the original.
Okay, there you go.
It was a perfectly basic, forgettable horror movie on its own merits. It only got shittier because it was drawing parallels to the original.
Okay,
it didn't do anything to justify its existence.
All right, awesome. That's pretty much where I was at. I was like, I don't need this, and you're kind of pissing on a legendary property. So, all right, well, there we go. That was good, man. I like these Halloween episodes. Like, it's an excuse to watch some Halloween stuff and kind of dig into some gory stuff. What's up, Mimar? Good to see you. How's it going? Mimar pops in right as we're about to close up.
I was going to say, this seems to be a trend. Mimar, you do know when we go live, right? You always
in a different time
chime in like an hour late. We go live at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Eastern, yes. Jeff Caffrey,
not Central.
Good to see you, Jeff. We'll see you soon, man. Take care. Yeah. So this was fun. We'll have to do this again every year. We have our cool special Halloween intro and everything. So before we get out of here, why don't we tell all the kiddos what's going on with the Virtual Cantina Network this week? So I'll toss it over to you.
Sure. All right. So we've got the week of October 23rd through October 29th. October 23rd, our father's birthday, by the way. So happy birthday, Dad. Thank you. Coming up this week, we already are on the 25th, obviously. That's the Nerf Herder Council. The VCN Watch-Along is Terrifying Tales, which is actually a fun one. I don't know, JT, if you've seen that one, but that's the Lego Star Wars bit on Disney+.
I haven't seen it, but I'm familiar with it.
I highly recommend you check it out, actually. It's an anthology sort of series. A lot of deep cuts, actually. The Lego Star Wars is actually one of the best researched sort of Easter eggy kind of things you can do. So I think it's a really good time, and especially if you like the sequel trilogy characters, this is your best source of like supplemental material. So you can do the VCN Watch Along Terrifying Tales Thursday, October 26th, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. And then we have Fifth Sunday, not Sixth Sunday, but Fifth Sunday. We do not do Jedi Archives or Unifying Force this weekend, so they are going to be covering something else on Sunday, October 29th, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific Time. 8 a.m. Pacific Time. I'm sorry. My bad. So the schedule is slightly lighter this week, but we are going to be recalibrating on the Virtual Cantina Network for all of the, quote, holiday season. Moving on past Halloween and spooky times into Christmas and whatnot. So stay tuned for the schedule along all of the Virtual Cantina Network shows. We will keep you up to date on everything that's going on. And like, share, and subscribe on all the shows and on Virtual Cantina Network on YouTube.
And we are going to be back 2 weeks from tonight. It will be Wednesday, November 8th. And we are going to be discussing the Mortis arc of the Clone Wars. So this is actually new to me. I have not made it through the entirety of the Clone Wars series. So this will be some new information for me. From what AJ's told me, I might not care for some of it because it gets a little too Filoni-ish, I understand. But we'll see. We'll see. So this is kind of like a fresh react to the Mortis arc. So we're going to be doing that in our next show, which, of course, as I said, is Wednesday, November 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube, our Facebook and YouTube. Also, the Facebook and YouTube of the Virtual Cantina Network. I think we had an issue tonight going live from the Facebook because StreamYard had some issue with it, but it'll be back in the normal locations in 2 weeks. So again, guys, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Great to see Mimar, Jeff Caffrey, Chris Aiken, Kale McLeish, all you guys in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Do not forget that we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you are watching on YouTube, as AJ said, please click that like button, click that subscribe button, smash that notification bell. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get Virtual Cantina Network swag, all you have to do is go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And before we officially close the doors tonight, AJ is going to tell you about our Patreon program.
It's very simple, guys. We're not trying to get rich here. We're just trying to cover the costs. So for $1 a month, you can get a shout out on the show, just like our buddy Mark Thrasher has done. That will get you the shout out, as I have just done. And if you go for the $3 a month tier, then we will not only give you a shout out on the show, as Mark Thrasher has done, but we will also give you the audio version of this live stream 2 days early. So instead of waiting until the Friday after the Wednesday live stream, or it's a Sunday after the live stream, you will get it on the Friday after the live stream instead. And we have many more ideas for additional content and such for additional tiers on Patreon. So make sure, even if you don't actually give us any money whatsoever on Patreon, you do follow us on Patreon. We will be posting things there. We are always open to suggestions for more content ideas. But the general theme is this. If you want to watch the Nerf Herder Council get weird, subscribe to us on Patreon. And we are going to be experimenting there to find out what works best, because we're not good at this whole social media thing or podcasting, fundraising in general. So who knows what's going to show up there, but it's your best chance to find some weird stuff that no one else is going to get access to. So join us on patreon.com/NHC podcast.
There you go. Well, guys, that'll do it for the Nerf Herder Council tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks on November 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, I am your host, JT, at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
And we will catch you guys later.
Bucket of of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my nerf herder.
You my nerf herder.